Welcome to the way of biohacking. My name is Dr. Tay.
Hi, I'm Linda, Nutritionist Yogini. What's up, what's up?
Hello, it's wellness intern Nikki.
And today's topic is the importance of exercise. Linda, would you like to start us off getting the conversation going today?
Yeah, I want to bring up sarcopenia. This is something that happens to everybody. For those that don't know, sarcopenia, I'm quoting here from an article. It's involuntary loss of muscle mass, strength, and function. And about 3 to 8% per decade of muscle mass is lost after the age of 30. And the rate declines even quicker after the age of 60. So it's definitely something worth noting at. And of course, there's a lot of risks that come with loss of muscle mass, including issues with balance, fall risk is higher, and it affects a lot of hormones as well. And it could also increase insulin resistance.
Wow. How many percentage per year?
3 to 8% per decade, and they say pretty much 50% of mass being lost by the 8th decade of life. And I just want to show this image real quick. It's a cross-section of a thigh. The first image on the left is a 24-year-old man. You see this over here, the ring around it is the fat, and then the next two are at 66 years. So you see the dramatic increase of fat mass as muscle mass decreases.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, so...
And one thing I want to point out looking at that is you could see, if you look at the bone of the thigh, on the left, in the 24-year-old, it's much more white and it looks like it's much denser. And as they age, the whiteness kind of fades.
Yeah.
So not only does strength, but bone density will also deteriorate with age.
Wow. And that's the leg, right?
Yeah, the
femur.
thigh.
The thigh.
So especially around the quad area, that's an area that transitions from muscle to fat most dramatically with aging.
Like what is that? The quadriceps, right? The quads that people talk about is one of the largest muscles in the human body. And
along with one of the largest bones underneath it, the femur.
Yeah, the femur bone. And like predators, like lions, they need to use those muscles to hunt. You know, like a lion, they don't struggle, right? The only time they struggle is when they're running towards their food and try to catch it and like tear it apart and eat it. And because the quadriceps is built in to engage by chasing something, like if you really think about it, other than like us trying to exercise doing squats, we would use our legs to chase something, and then soon after we would eat. And it directly correlates to your digestive system. So like I think Ben Greenfield, in one of the conferences that he attended at, he's a famous biohacker, and he's like the #1 personal trainer in the United States, most influential, I would say. And he talked about before eating your Thanksgiving meal, which is coming right up ahead, if you did 50 squats right before your meal, like you would digest so much better. Right. And I think Tom was talking about like if you work out your quads as your first primary warm-up muscle, because it is the largest muscle in the body. So if you work that part out, you're producing more testosterone, and for men is very, very important. And you know, testosterone, although it happens to be a male hormone, women need it too. So like it's not just like, you know, testosterone is just for men. Women need to work out that muscle in their primary workout as well.
And one thing I like to mention is a lot of people neglect how to strengthen their bones.
Yeah.
So things like impact training, like jumping, jump rope, and push-ups where you'll kind of leave the ground. And like I like to do push-ups where I'll push up and then I'll put my hands on something at a higher elevation and then come back. Those impacts over time will help keep your bones strong, and those will deteriorate also along with muscle.
Yeah, something I see a lot with the elderly that you might notice is that they use their arms to push themselves to stand up, and that's another sign that there's deterioration in their legs. So very important to work out those larger muscle groups like the glutes and the quads to make sure you maintain muscles in that area.
Yeah, what Nikki was talking about was Wolff's Law. Based on how much pressure and weight that you put on your bones, the calcium builds up more to it, and also goes to show that, you know, a lot of people out there needs to take a combination of a good balance of calcium, magnesium, calcium, it makes your muscles harder. Magnesium also makes your muscles looser.
Vitamin D as well for the bone strength. Vitamin D.
Yeah, vitamin D, about 5,000 IUs per day. Better if you take it at night than compared to the day. Also, vitamin K, because vitamin K helps with osteoblasts. They help put the calcium onto the bones in itself. So those are some of the important things. Now, there's so many types of exercises out there, right? There is exercise physiology. There is yoga. There's Pilates. There is Tai Chi, Qi Gong, right? Linda, you've done, Tai Chi for a long. How many years have you been doing Tai Chi?
I've been doing Tai Chi for almost 2 decades now.
Okay, wow. And in China, where they do Tai Chi on a regular basis, you don't hear a lot of Chinese elderly people who practice Tai Chi falling and breaking their hip bones like the way you hear it in the United States, right?
It's true. Tai Chi has a huge balance component to it, and it's a grounding exercise. So really being able to connect to the earth. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a lot of squatting involved. There's a horse dance. Of course, it's not as dramatic as you see in martial arts movies because it is Tai Chi. It's a softer art. Mm-hmm. But the balance of the horse dance activates those quadriceps muscles. Yeah. And then when you practice Tai Chi, you're working on your balance. You balance a lot of standing on one leg. There's a lot of hanging stances. And of course, you're connecting the mind, body, and spirit. So that's that component as well that keeps the mind active. So you're not just mindlessly doing any movements, but there's a coordination. So it involves the brain and the intellect as well.
Mm-hmm. Nikki, what about you? You exercise a lot, right?
Yeah, I work out 3 days a week, but one thing that I would like to add is besides from being in the gym, it's important to live an active lifestyle. Right. Because I know that in hormones, the less you use them, the less your body will produce them. Someone who lives a very sedentary lifestyle, your body's not going to need as much testosterone, so it's going to lower the amount of testosterone that it produces. The same thing with muscles. If you're not using muscles, if you're not being active, you're not even in the gym, but riding a bike or just going for a walk, your body's going to deteriorate those because it doesn't need them. So it's important to keep your body in use.
In the blue zones, right? Where is it? Like Sardinia, some parts of the United States. Where?
Okinawa
in Japan.
Punta Arenas in Costa Rica.
Those people don't exercise, right? Gym is not part of their repertoire, but those people are fairly active.
The way they live, right?
Yeah. Like the parts in Sardinia, these people don't exercise, but they don't have cars. They just walk to all their friend's house, which is sometimes a mile away and stuff like that. They go garden. The Japanese old guy the ikigai, the concept of I have a goal in life, and that's to feed my grandchildren fish. So he goes out there and he's not working out, but he's out in the boat standing, using his quads, and he's doing these exercises. I can't say I was doing 100 push-ups for the past, before I got sick, because Mo put me on this bet, I gotta put on this bodysuit, and I didn't want to do it, so I was doing 100 push-ups, but that was just very temporarily. It's not in my basic regimen. I walk about somewhere between 5, 6 to 8 miles per day in the office, treating numerous amount of patients room to room. So, and I keep track of that in the Aura thing. So I never feel I need to work out. But although when I do work out, I do feel great, but it's just that upkeep to keep that discipline. How long have you been, keeping that discipline, working out 3 times a week? When did you start that?
Well, you two know about 2 years ago, I lost a lot of weight because of some digestion problems. So I started going to the gym. I wanted to gain weight back. And for about 2 years, I've been consistently going to the gym, and I've gained 30 pounds. Okay. 30. It's not all, everyone says 30 pounds of muscle. It's not all muscle. It's kind of impossible to gain only muscle. But so I've gained about 30 pounds, and I've been doing it consistently for 2 years. And I want to kind of talk about like fitness supplements a little bit.
Okay.
Like, you know, protein shakes and
Yeah.
things like that. I think that they should be used more for convenience.
Okay.
Then a lot of people think, oh, I need to go to the gym and then I need to drink a protein shake.
Yeah.
I think that if anyone could just eat like a high protein meal, like something like, I don't know, a steak or something, a high protein meal is better than a super insulin spiking protein shake after a workout. Now, insulin, you do want an insulin spike after a workout, but it's just not, I don't believe that super processed micro grains of whey is kind of what we're meant to digest.
Okay.
So I would prefer doing like a steak or ground beef after a workout.
Yeah, I like how you brought that up. One of the main things, again, about losing muscle mass with aging is that the shift in your diet. So making sure that you are getting a consistent protein source and also high quality protein, which is what Nikki brought up. Making sure that you do have whole protein in your diet. You can't just sustain on supplements because they are highly processed form. And of course, there's a lot of other aspects that come with choosing high protein forms, high quality protein forms, and then it has a combination of fat content in there as well. Post-workout, I do usually recommend a combination of carbs and fat depending on the type of workout you are doing to make sure that you are replenishing your stores to fuel your following and consecutive workouts.
Well, I do like to do a little bit of I don't eat a lot of carbs, but I've talked about honey before. I'm a big raw honey person. So after the gym, I'll do a spoonful of raw honey to spike my insulin along with my protein, and I do a ton of fat. Like, say I'll have ground beef, I'll put like a tablespoon of grass-fed butter in it and like olive oil. Like, I had really high calorie because I am trying to gain weight. That's still the goal. I would like to hit 150 pounds. I'm like 142.
Okay.
So I'm almost there, I guess.
All right. What is that? I used to work at Equinox as a massage therapist, and there's all these personal trainers, and these guys are like super educated. They're like, they're super fit, and they know their like exercise physiology, and by default, if you're a personal trainer at Equinox, like, you know nutrition. And I remember this several like characters at Equinox, they used to say things like, after your workout, you have to eat within 15 minutes because your body's looking for that protein to absorb into it. And if you miss that window of time, so I think that's one of the main reasons why people choose, protein supplements, because it's like, you just add water, you shake it vigorously,
so convenient,
right, and then you drink that. Like,
but I just don't think that it's evolutionary. Like, you mentioned how you would exercise and then you would kill something and eat it. Like, if you look at a lion, I think that's the reason why you're supposed to eat 15 minutes after, because, you know, if you look at when we would be working out as cavemen, it would be to eat. So I think evolutionary, we're programmed for that, and I don't think that, you know, a whey shake kind of fits that need. I think it's like, should be a whole protein, something that's really good.
So technically, you're supposed to like cook up your food, right? Right, and then put it on pause, go work out, and then come and eat, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people that exercise and have this fitness routine do get into meal prepping. A common pitfall I see in meal prepping is over consistency. In terms of everyone, it's the chicken and the broccoli and the brown rice. And that's what you're having every meal, multiple times a week, if not every day.
All right, you're like a nutritionist, right? Certified nutritionist,
Registered
right?
dietitian.
Registered dietitian. I'm sorry, registered dietitian. What do you recommend for people who are meal prepping? Like, what should be like a good meal prepping regimen that people should engage in?
So definitely high quality protein source, lots of vegetables. So it could range from dark leafy greens to root vegetables. But the importance is the variety. And right now I'm really pushing the seasonal difference.
Okay.
So right now we're late fall, early winter. Dark leafy greens are a good choice.
Okay.
People like to choose chicken a lot.
Okay.
I was following this Qi Gong master who wrote in his book, people eat so much chicken in America that they're starting to turn into chickens. in terms of anxiety. Chickens are anxious beings, and you see that in humans as well. We are also anxious beings. So choosing a variety of protein sources. It could be legumes, it could be beans, nuts, seeds. Right now, late fall would be probably more duck, lamb, beef. So switching it up is really important, not eating the same thing every day, because you need your nutrients from a variety of sources. So not just only choosing broccoli, but maybe some carrots, radishes, choosing a variety of colors to absorb different nutrients from those veggies.
Now, you mentioned chicken. What I want, I kind of don't do chicken after a workout because of the lower fat. Chicken breast is very low fat. I want something really high calorie, really like high fat. So I usually do a beef or a pork. But I don't do beef every day. I'll change it up. And if you eat too much of the same thing every day, you'll develop an immune response to it.
Okay, I see that.
And I spoke to Tom about that before. So definitely changing up how you eat. He's talked about doing pork for 3 days, no beef, and then beef for 3 days. Taking a break from stuff, letting your body kind of take a break from it is important.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because just like alcohol, if you keep on taking it over and over and over, you get used to it, and then you need more of it to get the same thing. Okay, I see that. Cool. All right. So, Linda, what do you do for your daily exercise regimen to upkeep and stuff like that?
So now that I moved back to New York City, I include a lot of walking into my routine, which I'm very grateful for. Before I lived in Los Angeles, and it was definitely a struggle getting more than 2,000 steps a day, because I'm basically just walking back and forth to my car.
Okay.
And that's, I think, a lot of people in America, what they suffer from is that it's very difficult to just go for a walk, because where are you going to go? Around your block, around the neighborhood? A lot of places, the infrastructure is not built for walking, which I think is a great daily routine to have, just to get outside, get some sunshine, set your circadian rhythm on time, I practice yoga. Not as regular as I'd like, but at least 2-3 times a week. Tai Chi once a week, and some form of martial art. Recently it's been kendo. It used to be Wing Chun. So really, I do a variety of things, but they're all very low impact, and that's something that's fit into my life. I used to be an avid runner, and I used to be a power lifter, things that I've shifted away from as I'm aging. I say that as if I'm still in my 30s, but it just didn't fit into my lifestyle in terms of scheduling. The meal prepping was a huge part of being a runner or a weightlifter.
How long ago did you run?
Back in 2015. Or around that time, I was living in Boston. Boston has huge marathon culture, so everybody's running, and the weather honestly is perfect for outdoor running because it's cooler there. I'd go on 5 to 10K runs 3 to 4 times a week.
Wow.
I love walking also. I love walking on sand, because I feel like you're kind of strengthening muscles that you won't typically strengthen when you're just walking on like a flat sidewalk. So I really like walking or running on sand, because you're hitting, small muscles that typically wouldn't get strengthened. And I'll go for like 6-mile walks on the beach someday. Last day, mid-October, where it was like 70 something, I went to Long Beach and I walked 6 miles and 6 miles back. Like I love walking on sand, and I think it's something people should incorporate.
When I was in Costa Rica, I very fortunately lived oceanfront, and I was practicing Tai Chi in the sand, and I noticed how dramatic improvement in my balance from practicing barefoot on sand versus on pavement, because you really have to be so attuned with your grounding.
And if you think about like how we used to live as cavemen and stuff, we weren't walking on perfectly flat sidewalks. We were walking in brush and over rocks and sticks. So muscles that used to be evolutionary built up aren't so much now, because we're just walking on pavement. So I think going out and walking on a rougher or non-level surface could benefit a lot of people,
like walking on the beach. Okay, well, next time I go to the beach, I'm gonna try that. Because I usually like I dip my toes in, but I don't go for long walks per se. I gotta definitely try that. Like for me, I work 6-8 miles a day. I do yoga with you on Fridays. I teach on Saturdays. Thursday nights I do the area yoga, which is great for my upper body. But I think I want to get back into like a normal routine where I used to do things on a regular basis. And like, I'm one of those people that prefer to do it early in the morning. I mean, there's tons of people out there. Like, there's people who prefer to work out at the end of their day. Then you got like the high-powered executives that like to wake up at 5 and like, I'm a Marine, like, and they go in and work out. But you got to find that spot, right, that fits into your lifestyle.
And also something that you enjoy doing. I work with a lot of clients that really struggle with finding an exercise routine that they genuinely enjoy, and that's when they keep falling off and missing working out for a few weeks, getting back into it, starting a really aggressive new program, like I'm going to do this every day for X amount of hours, and then they realize, I don't like this, burnout, and then this is a cycle that happens a lot, I see in people.
I think I've seen that happen in a lot of people that try to follow what somebody else does. Like, personally, I just kind of threw together my own routine. I do chest, then I do back, then I do arms. Like, I kind of threw it together myself, and I think that's why I enjoy it a lot. I've seen people, like some buddies who they work out with each other and they'll follow somebody else. They're much, like, they're kind of miserable, and I really enjoy working out, but I threw my own thing together. So I think kind of making your own plan isn't a bad idea, because I think you'll like it a lot more.
And for people that are working from home, I think it's very important to incorporate some sort of outdoor activity, let it be a walk or a weekend hike. And when you're at home, setting out your home workout area and encouraging yourself to work out. I like to call it seducing yourself to the mat or whatever the space, by like putting on good music, setting the mood, really making it enticing so that you want to do this and you look forward to it, and it's not just something you need to get out of the way for your health.
Working out is something I get excited over. Like the night before, like I'm like, I can't wait to go to the gym tomorrow. Like, I really enjoy it. And I think that attitude is something that it would benefit a lot of people to obtain.
So, like, okay, we talked about people who are doing great, right, in other countries and stuff like that. And for our listeners, right, we have a wide range of age groups. Like, what would be a good recommendation for, let's say, people in their 50s and 60s to do? Like, obviously, like, Tai Chi is something that we would like to recommend for everybody, right? I hope like Tai Chi culture picks up in this country, because it is very helpful, because it prevents a lot of like falls, breaking of the hips, things like that. I wouldn't recommend like CrossFit for people who are like 60s and 70s and wear out their joints and all this stuff. However, I would recommend CrossFit for people who are like, someone like Nikki, younger and stuff like that, right? I think power walking is very, very important, where you kind of like pick up the pace while you're walking. You're not running, you're not jogging, but you're somewhere in between, like 75% away from actually jogging. And I also recommend breathing while you're walking the entire time. So it's like a breathing power walking exercise. That's something I recommend to a lot of my patient base. What about for kids like Lena? She's doing like, my daughter is 7 years old. She goes to kendo like 3 times a week.
She does ballet.
Yeah, right. She has ballet. She was doing yoga with you, but not this semester. So hopefully she'll get back into yoga. What else would you recommend for kids?
For kids, I really recommend trying everything. That's when they find what they enjoy doing, and giving them the option to try as many things as possible. I also highly recommend team sports for kids, so that way they could build that camaraderie and learning how to become a team player.
Okay. What about for college kids? What would you recommend?
Well, I think it depends on what somebody wants to do.
Okay.
So I do higher weight, lower reps, because I want to, gain. I don't want to gain as much definition. I want to put on size.
Okay.
If someone's, maybe a larger person who's trying to gain definition in their arms or their chest, do higher reps, lower weights, just kind of for stamina. And things like that. But I'm also a big fan of body weight exercises. I can do a lot of pull-ups because I'm a pretty light person, but if a bigger person just crank out a few pull-ups, I think of things in an evolutionary standpoint, like that's how we would have exercised when we were cavemen. I've said it
Right.
a few times already, but like things like like I like body weight based exercises a lot.
Right,
They're what I do,
calisthenics.
and when I can't go to the gym, I'll just be. I did a lot of planks. I do a lot of planks.
Okay.
Push-ups, things like that. You know, pull-ups. I think would benefit anybody, and walking. You know, I'm 20 and I walk all the time. You would think that, oh, walking is an old person thing. I love to walk.
Yeah.
And I feel good while I'm doing it. I feel good after I do it. So it's not just an old person thing. I think everyone should walk.
I definitely recommend body weight exercises for all ages, especially older individuals who are trying to start working out.
Yeah.
Form is very important. So starting with basics like lunges, squats, that's a great place to start. Even overhead presses, but without the weights, just using your own arms. Just really working on alignment and form, I think, is more important than starting with weights.
Right.
And that's something you could do for all ages. That's, I think, very beneficial, but again, form is very important. So starting with a trainer or a friend to check on your form, so
Right.
that way you prevent any possible injuries.
Okay, so today was our first recording again, right? Since you went to Costa Rica. So Linda and I have been recording just for kicks, right? What we do in our yoga routine. And we've been posting it up on YouTube. We're getting a good flow, and then you went away to Costa Rica, and then we kind of stopped. You came back, and now it's like the team grew, and we started recording again. And like now that we're kind of like doing it, like should we focus on like seniors what to do and stuff like that? Maybe teach like the basics of Tai Chi, because I know how to do that. Linda can get more in depth about it later. Nikki, would you want to learn like the basics of Tai Chi through the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I would definitely tune in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the basics of Tai Chi and the basics of yoga are very similar. A lot of it is just learning how to stand on your 2 feet.
Yeah.
Because even if you're just standing there, you'll notice your feet are most likely not parallel.
Yeah.
Your hips are probably not facing center, even if you assume you are.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things that you carry in your body that affect your posture. And the basics really is just realigning yourself with the center and finding your own center again and learning how to move from your center.
All right. Nikki, have you ever done Tai Chi?
No,
No.
I've just done what we've done in the studio.
We did basics of Qi Gong.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I've done, and I really enjoy it. I think yoga is something that's important, especially for like someone who goes to the gym like me.
Yeah.
Is because I'm not very flexible.
Right.
I've never really been flexible. I can't touch my toes, and just kind of gaining that flexibility, it will give you a better range of motion at the gym, and it loosens you up. You know, athletes also, they're very tight usually, so yoga is, I think, is an important tool to incorporate.
Yeah, when I was part of a martial arts school, I did Eagle Claw Kung Fu. My Sifu, my master, any student that was too tough, too hard, he would send over to the Tai Chi side, and Tai Chi students like me, he encouraged to do Eagle Claw to gain that the fierceness and the fire. So thinking about exercise as having a balance in your routine, a yin and a yang. So even though you do a lot of weightlifting, like balancing it with walking, that would be a more restorative form of working out.
Right. Okay. Like, one of the things that I've seen with my buddy Jules, right, is that I remember this one time, like, we went to the beach during the summer to go fishing with Mole, right? And we're carrying, like, these ice boxes and all this stuff. And Mole literally made us, like, walk, like, I don't know, 2-3 miles away from the parking lot. And then Jules is carrying this ice box, and he's like, yo, I can't carry this anymore, right? I'm like, yo, you got all these big muscles, man. How come you can't carry it? Oh, my name is Jules. So I started making fun of him. And he gets like irate. He's like, I'm not carrying this no more. And he literally like walked like, I would say maximum like 3/4 of a mile. And I'm carrying it, and I start walking. And I walk like twice the amount. And then I'm looking at him. Oh, my name is Tay. I got small muscles, and I'm not complaining. I think it's because like the way he worked out was like to bulk up, and he didn't have the endurance muscles. And like, and this is not to make fun of, you know, Jules. Is I think you got to have the importance of like balanced muscles. Yeah, you need strength, right? But you also need endurance, right? And you also need to learn how to calm down, right? Because it's easy to get excited, right? A lot of people know how to get excited, push, and like New York being this like high strung, like gotta get things done. And if you go to places like, I don't know, Florida or Texas, everyone's like, take it easy.
Yeah, super mellow.
Yeah, very super mellow. I think you need a good balance between that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Something I brought up in a previous podcast is that in the West, we're so about the ramping up, going really hardcore, putting it all in, but we don't really focus on the cool downs. And my yoga classes, they're usually around an hour long. A third of the time is warming up, a third of the time is really the peak pose, and then a third of the time is cooling down. So really focusing on the cool down to bring your body, your hormones, your breath back to a natural resting state and not staying in that ramped up state.
Okay, I do want to touch this very briefly, but this is a topic that I want to discuss in future podcasts when Tom is here. But until Tom comes, we have the floor. Is high intensity interval training. Tom was doing this thing called fire and ice. It was a combination of breath work, HIIT exercises, and stretching, like yoga and stuff like that. I think like my class, Unify Practice, was not like exercise intense, but it did have exercise components to work out postural muscles. However, like HIIT exercises is not good if you do it past, I think the research shows about, what is it? You know this better than I do.
Yeah, I think it was, I want to say 20 minutes.
25, I think.
Could be wrong.
Yeah, 25 minutes.
I think it was something around there. And that's really, really interesting that after a certain time frame of super high intensity training, it can actually negatively affect
your hormone gets really imbalanced. Yeah. So according to that research, I think the guy who really figured that out was a Japanese guy who came up with the Tabata method, right? In Japan, they took high intensity interval training into a lesser amount, and by doing it less, the research shows that they would get more out of it. So people who are doing high intensity interval training, they would get more in a 1 hour workout if they were to it some close to like 25 minutes, and then do some sort of breath work, and then do some sort of like stretching, like yoga regimen.
And now that's interesting that you bring up, because you can overwork you can over weightlift, not just high intensity interval training, but you can over anything. You look at these bodybuilders, they work out to the point where their bodies kind of start to deteriorate because they just overwork them. So that's why I only do 3 days a week, because I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I think those weekends are really important to take off like those 2 days in a row where I'm not. It's really important to let your body rest and to get good sleep. Muscle building, sleep is such a massive part of building muscle, because your body repairs cells in its sleep. That's why when you say you cut yourself, it'll scab, but then when you go to sleep, you wake up, you'll see like healing. Cell production happens most in the sleep, so it's the same thing with muscle cells.
What was I about to say? It escapes me. I just had a brain fart. But one of the things that I do also want to touch upon is like the Tai Chi people, right? They don't have they're moving really slow, so they do build strength, but it takes a lot of time to build that strength.
Definitely.
Because the slower you move, the more muscles you would create. And that's kind of like oxymoronic in today's understanding. If you ever meet like a real strong Tai Chi person, those people are like, almost immovable, right? Like they move so slow, yet they're very strong. And
they're so soft.
And so soft, yeah. What do you think about kendo? Do you think kendo provides a good exercise regimen for people?
So I really enjoy kendo because there's a huge posture component. A lot of the form, you are standing with your
upright,
your spine erect, and the footwork too. It really, you have to be engaged the entire time.
Right.
And at the same time, you have to be relaxed. It's also a huge meditation. And I want to bring this into it, how meditation ties into exercise, because Tai Chi to me is a moving meditation. And Kendo, the sparring component, you have to be in this meditated, concentrated state in order to achieve whatever you want to do in your spar or in your stance.
Like, what is that? Like Taekwondo, MMA, like once you're like, I don't know, 40 years old, you can't be competing, right? You could still be, you know, rolling with people, teaching people techniques, but you can't be doing jump roundhouse kicks at the age of 55 to 60. It's not just, you know, like realistic, but like Kendo, like you see people who are like 80 years old, like
in my
still,
class. There's like 4-year-olds and 80-year-olds.
And they still kick butt because the technique just works, right? So
and I think that that's really great. Just any type of physical activity. Like typically, as people get older, their physical activity drops, which is it's understandable because they're getting older. But just to have something like, instead of sitting at home all day, just doing something is much better than doing nothing. Your hormones, if you don't do anything, your hormones are really taking effect. Especially the ones that are involved with you being active, like testosterone, and having low levels of testosterone, whether you're a man or a female, it's really bad for your health. It's bad for pretty much everything. And you see in people that live a sedentary lifestyle at any age, when their testosterone drops, they'll have a much higher instance of gynecomastia, which is like man breasts. And it's something that's really, really popular right now, and it's kind of sad. Well, it's also because of the use of steroids. Steroids can cause that also. But so many people, young people, are living really sedentary lifestyles, and they're developing gynecomastia, and they need to get surgery to have it removed. And it's sad.
Is there a way to reduce that?
Well, it's mostly fatty tissue.
Yeah.
So, but it is hard. Like, you'll see MMA fighters with gynecomastia, which shows that they've probably done some anabolics in the past. And the only way to really remove it fully is surgically. It's not like another fat where it kind of burns off. It doesn't really burn. You'll see guys that are very lean and they have like prominent chests, but you'll see they have gynecomastia.
What is that? My buddy Gianni, he has kind of like rehabbed one of his friends from the army who had like going through a rough patch in life with job, relationships, work. And this guy, when he was in the army, he was like super fit. And then after the army, with like PTSD and all of these things, he ended up like really overweight. And he was just very emotional about his like breakup with his girlfriend. And my buddy Gianni, being who he is, he started making fun of him, like oh, you're a feminine man, and he started making fun of him like, it's all the carbs you're eating. And he made him go through a carb detox, right? And he literally stopped eating carbs, and made him walk like, I think on average, like 5 to 8 miles every day, first thing in the morning, like you're marching in the army. It's like Gianni's out of the military, but he's still in the military. So he has that routine that he does. And I think within about like 2-3 months, he just stopped being emotional about his girlfriend, got over it real quick. And then he was telling me the story about like how carbs do this for a lot of people. I'm like, don't get me wrong, like I had a carby meal today, I had a carby meal on Wednesday. I'm not one of those like gluten-free people. I try to eat gluten-free. There are days where I just eat keto, but there are also days I eat gluten-full meals. I think it's a good balance you gotta have, right? I'm a firm believer that if I stop eating gluten as a whole, then I will become very sensitive to gluten later on. Is because like I eat a certain amount, just like if you eat something every single day, you get used to it, right? And you want to get used to the things that like you want to eat a wide variety of different things. I think that's the key thing.
And I want to say there's nothing wrong with being a feminine man or being sensitive and open to your emotions. People do use a lot of comfort foods to what they think is replacing some emotional loss.
I would say I'm a emotional man. I'm a very emotional man.
But yes, balance in what you're eating, making sure that you're balancing all the food groups and choosing high quality foods is very important.
I'm a very emotional man.
And you mentioned gluten. I know this isn't a nutrition episode, but I haven't eaten gluten in about 2 years. And I've seen things on the history of gluten. Like, if you look at the first breads that were baked, the first wheats that we used, there was no gluten in that wheat. No. So there's a theory that the wheat actually there was a mutation, and it became gluten was a product of that mutation, and it became more indigestible. It was kind of like it evolved into containing gluten so that it wouldn't be eaten as much. That's a theory, it's not confirmed true, but I think it's pretty credible, and I avoid gluten.
Like, gluten comes from the Latin root word glue, right? It's very sticky, right? And it's so sticky that your body can't process it, so it gets stuck on you, right? And your body can't get it out of your system, so you have the ability to retain the weight longer, right? And I think it was like, I forget, but I remember reading this like research article from like India, and I think in the like mid 19th century, right, the world was afraid of overpopulating and not having enough food for the world, and there will be a mass mass starvation, right? I think the concept is called Malthusian. I'm not sure. And one of the revolutionary thing that came out of it was wheat. Wheat was hybridized, and to the point where the yield was so much larger than a regular one strand of wheat, and that hybrid version of wheat became the dominant species, and that had a higher gluten form, right? And if you look at the original like Ezekiel bread or the sourdough bread, I mean, they take something that's super gluteny, right? And what do they do to it? They feed it with yeast, right? I don't know, has anyone here made a recipe for sourdough? Like, you take the sourdough yeast, you put it into a what is that? The slab of sour like dough, right? And the yeast kind of eats through it. You throw away 90% of it, and you keep like 10%, and that 10% gets put into another dough, right? And that yeast now eats through it, becoming stronger. And you do this like several times, right? By the time you get to the fourth or fifth time, many generations of that yeast has gone through, like generation, like, I don't know, I'm going to use a rough estimate, like 50 or 100 or 150. And that version of the yeast is a lot stronger than the yeast in the first dough. First starter, right. And then when you use that to just eat through the dough, it eats away, like, so it kind of like digests it for you. I think that's one of the reasons why sourdough bread is really good for you, right? All right. Back on exercise. We went off on a huge dietary tangent. All right.
It's okay, because dietary plays such a huge role in exercise and sustaining your exercise, because really how you time your meals and what you're choosing to eat really dictates, for me especially, how I'm able to move in my workout or in whatever I choose to do.
All right. So in future episodes, we will talk about a stretch component, because today is just exercise and I want to do it justice. So can everyone just give off one exercise that you would recommend people to do, right? And or two or three, right? So that people kind of have a ballpark figure on what to do. Linda, what would you recommend people to?
I like to recommend mindful movement.
Mindful movement.
Any movement you choose to do, but coordinating it with the breath.
Okay.
I would say I really like planks. I think everyone could do planks. I used to have rib flare. That's where like your lower ribs will kind of poke out. And I almost completely corrected it by doing planks. Like I'll do plank and I'll really tighten up my obliques, and it kind of like completely got rid of my rib flare. And your lower back, strengthens your lower back, your neck muscles. Planks are really good for a large part of your body, and it's a body weight exercise.
Okay. I'm going to say, as the basics, squats.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing squats. Any other things you would like to recommend?
Try coordinating your next exercise with your breathing. It makes such a huge difference in your performance.
So I guess what Linda is trying to say is that if you're doing a squat, right, instead of just doing squats and then the breath is not coordinated with it, you would want to breathe out as you're squatting down, right? And you want to be breathing in as you're coming up. Is that what you're...
So there are different ways of approaching it, but yes, in general, just breathing in with one movement and breathing out
with the other.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. This is where our time ends, and stay tuned for our next episode next week.
And you can now find this, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Qi Body and Spirit, I think is the channel name.
Yeah.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify and iTunes. They'll be linked in the description. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peace.